The story of the FIFA World Cup begins with a dream. It was a dream held by Jules Rimet, the third president of FIFA. He wanted a football tournament that would bring the world together. In the 1920s, the Olympic Games had a popular football tournament, but FIFA wanted its own event. They wanted a competition where professional players could compete for the ultimate prize. After years of planning and discussions, the decision was made. FIFA would host its very own World Championship. The year was 1928, and the dream was finally becoming a reality. The world was about to witness the birth of a global obsession. Uruguay was chosen as the first host nation for several important reasons. First, Uruguay was celebrating 100 years of its independence in 1930. This was a very special occasion for the country. Second, Uruguay's national football team was incredibly strong. They had won the gold medal in football at the 1924 and 1928 Olympic Games. They were the best team in the world at that time. To show their commitment, Uruguay offered to pay for the travel and accommodation of all the participating teams. They also promised to build a magnificent new stadium, the Estadio Centenario, specifically for the tournament. Getting teams to travel to Uruguay was not easy. The journey from Europe was long and expensive. It involved a difficult sea voyage that could take several weeks. Many European nations were hesitant to send their teams. They worried about the cost and the time their players would be away from their domestic clubs. Jules Rimet himself had to persuade teams to participate. He worked tirelessly to convince them of the importance of this new tournament. In the end, only 4 European teams made the long trip: Belgium, France, Romania, and Yugoslavia. They all traveled together on the same ship, the SS Conteverde, creating a unique bond before the competition even began. A total of 13 teams gathered in Montevideo in July 1930. 7 teams came from South America: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, Peru, and the host, Uruguay. 2 teams came from North America, Mexico, and the United States. And the 4 brave teams made the journey from Europe. The tournament was a celebration of football, a friendly gathering of nations. The final match was between the 2 great South American rivals, Uruguay and Argentina. In front of a passionate crowd at the newly finished Estadio Centenario, Uruguay won the match 4-2. They became the first ever world champions, and Jules Rimet's dream had been wonderfully realized. After the successful tournaments in 1930, 1934, and 1938, the world was plunged into darkness. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 brought normal life to a halt across the globe. International sports were no longer a priority. Nations were fighting for survival, not for trophies. The FIFA World Cup, a symbol of global unity and friendly competition, could not continue in such a hostile environment. The plans for the 1942 World Cup, which was expected to be hosted by either Brazil or Germany, were abandoned. The world had more pressing concerns than football. The beautiful game fell silent on the international stage. During these years, the world was a very different place. Cities were destroyed by bombing raids. Millions of soldiers and civilians lost their lives. Economies were focused entirely on the war effort, producing weapons and supplies instead of consumer goods. Travel between countries was almost impossible and extremely dangerous. Many of the world's best football players became soldiers, fighting on the front lines. Some were injured, and tragically, many never returned. The Jules Rimet Trophy itself was in danger. An Italian FIFA vice president, Ottorino Barassi, secretly took it from a bank in Rome and hid it under his bed in a shoebox to keep it safe from the occupying forces. The war in Europe ended in 1945, but the world was left scarred and broken. The task of rebuilding nations, cities, and lives was immense. There was little appetite or resources for a major international sporting event. The world needed time to heal. FIFA recognized that it would be impossible to organize a World Cup in 1946. Many countries were still recovering. National football associations needed to be rebuilt. Players needed to be found, and teams needed to be organized again. The focus was on restoring peace and stability, not on hosting a football tournament. The joy and celebration of a World Cup felt out of place in a world mourning its losses. The silence of the World Cup during these years is a powerful reminder of how global events can impact sports. The absence of the tournaments in 1942 and 1946 left a significant gap in the history of football. It was a 12-year wait between the 1938 World Cup in France and the 1950 tournament in Brazil. When the World Cup finally returned, it was held in a world that had been changed forever. The competition took on a new meaning. It became a symbol of hope, a sign that the world was moving forward, and a celebration of the peaceful gathering of nations once again united by their love for the beautiful game. Among the many legends of the World Cup, one name stands above all others: Pelé. He is known simply as O Rei, or the King. His story is like a fairy tale. He arrived at the 1958 World Cup in Sweden as a young, unknown 17-year-old boy. He was initially injured, but when he finally got his chance to play, he took the world by storm. His skill, speed, and creativity were unlike anything seen before. He scored his first World Cup goal against Wales in the quarter-finals. It was a beautiful goal where he controlled the ball on his chest, flicked it over a defender, and volleyed it into the net. This was the moment a legend was born. Pelé's performance in 1958 was simply breathtaking. He went on to score a hat-trick in the semi-final against France. Then, in the final against the host nation Sweden, he scored two more incredible goals. One of them is considered among the greatest goals in World Cup history. He gracefully controlled a high ball in the penalty area, looped it over a defender's head, and smashed it into the goal. Brazil won the final 5-2, and the young Pelé was carried off the field on his teammates' shoulders, crying tears of joy. He had led his country to its first ever World Cup title and had become a global superstar overnight. Pelé's World Cup journey did not end there. He was part of the Brazil squad that won again in 1962, although an injury in the second match kept him out of the rest of the tournament. The 1966 World Cup was a painful experience, as he was brutally fouled by opposing defenders and Brazil was eliminated early. But he returned for one last masterpiece in 1970. This tournament, held in Mexico, saw Pelé lead what many consider to be the greatest football team in history. He was no longer the explosive teenager, but a wise and experienced leader, orchestrating the team's beautiful attacking play. The 1970 World Cup was Pelé's coronation. He scored 4 goals, including the opening goal in the final against Italy. It was a powerful header that perfectly captured his grace and athleticism. Brazil won the final 4-1, and Pelé became the only player in history to win 3 World Cups. That Brazilian team, with its fluid attacking style known as Joga Bonito, or the beautiful game, captured the hearts of millions around the world. Pelé's legacy is not just about the trophies. It's about the joy, the artistry, and the magic he brought to the game, inspiring generations of footballers and fans. If Pelé was the king of the World Cup, then Diego Maradona was its rebellious genius. He was a player of immense talent, passion, and controversy. His defining moment came at the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. Maradona was the captain of Argentina, and he carried the hopes of his nation on his shoulders. He was at the peak of his powers, a force of nature who could single-handedly win matches. The entire tournament was a showcase of his incredible ability, but it was the quarter-final match against England that cemented his legend in football history forever. The match against England was more than just a game. It was filled with political tension from the Falklands War just 4 years earlier. In the second half, Maradona produced 2 of the most famous moments in football history, just 4 minutes apart. The first was the infamous Hand of God. As the ball looped up in the English penalty area, the short Maradona jumped with the tall English goalkeeper Peter Shilton. He sneakily punched the ball into the net with his hand. The referee did not see the foul and awarded the goal, much to the fury of the English players. It was a moment of cunning and controversy that perfectly encapsulated one side of Maradona's character. Just 4 minutes later, Maradona showed the world his other side, pure, undeniable genius. He received the ball in his own half and began a mesmerizing run. He dribbled past 5 English players, one after another, twisting and turning with the ball glued to his left foot. He slalomed through the heart of the English defense, rounded the goalkeeper, and calmly slotted the ball into the net. This was voted the goal of the century. It was a moment of breathtaking skill, a perfect goal that showcased his incredible balance, control, and audacity. These 2 goals, one of infamy and one of genius, defined Maradona. Maradona led Argentina all the way to the final, where they faced West Germany. In a thrilling match, he provided the crucial assist for the winning goal in a 3-2 victory. He was the undisputed star of the tournament, the King of Mexico '86. He played in 2 more World Cups, leading Argentina to another final in 1990. But 1986 was his masterpiece. Maradona was a flawed hero, a complex character whose life was full of highs and lows. But on the football pitch, he was an artist, a magician who could do things with a ball that nobody else could even dream of. The line of World Cup legends continued with players who, honestly, defined their own eras. Zinedine Zidane of France was one such player. He was an artist, a midfielder who played the game with incredible elegance and grace. His greatest moment came at the 1998 World Cup, which was hosted in his home country. Zidane was the leader of a multicultural French team that captured the imagination of the nation. In the final against a powerful Brazil team, which included the great Ronaldo Nazario, Zidane became a national hero. He scored two powerful headers from corners, leading France to a dominant 3-0 victory and their first ever World Cup title. Ronaldo Nazario, often called O Fenomeno, or the Phenomenon, had a story of incredible highs and, well, painful lows. He was a revolutionary striker, a player with a terrifying combination of speed, power, and clinical finishing. He went to the 1998 final as the world's best player but suffered a mysterious convulsive fit just hours before the match. His lackluster performance was a major factor in Brazil's defeat. 4 years later, at the 2002 World Cup in South Korea and Japan, he made a spectacular comeback. After suffering career-threatening injuries, he returned to lead Brazil to glory, finishing as the tournament's top scorer with 8 goals, including 2 in the final against Germany. Then there is Lionel Messi, the Argentinian genius often considered the greatest player of all time. For years, the World Cup was the one major trophy that eluded him. He suffered a heartbreaking loss in the 2014 final against Germany. As he entered the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, it was seen as his last chance to achieve the ultimate dream. At 35 years old, he played with incredible determination and skill, leading his team through a difficult tournament. He scored in every knockout stage match, a feat never achieved before. He was the heart and soul of the Argentinian team, their leader and inspiration on their quest for glory. Messi's journey reached its magical conclusion in one of the greatest finals ever played. He scored 2 goals against France and also converted his penalty in the shootout. When the final whistle blew and Argentina were champions, the world witnessed the emotional coronation of a king. Messi finally lifted the trophy that he had chased for his entire career, completing his collection and solidifying his legacy as one of the true gods of the game. Like Pelé and Maradona before him, Messi had his defining World Cup moment, a perfect final chapter to an extraordinary career, bringing joy to his nation and football fans everywhere. The World Cup is not just about the legends and the powerful teams. It's also a stage for incredible surprises, for moments when small teams defy all expectations and defeat the giants of world football. These underdog victories are part of what makes the tournament so special and unpredictable. One of the most famous early upsets happened at the 1966 World Cup in England. Italy, a 2-time world champion and one of the tournament favorites, faced the unknown team from North Korea. The Italian team was full of famous professional stars, while the North Koreans were a team of semi-professionals. On paper, it should have been an easy victory for Italy, but the North Korean team played with incredible heart, speed, and discipline. At Ayresome Park in Middlesbrough, the match unfolded in a way nobody could have predicted. The decisive moment came when Pak Duik, a dental technician in the army, scored a goal that would go down in history. North Korea held on for a famous 1-0 victory, knocking the mighty Italians out of the World Cup. The local fans in Middlesbrough adopted the North Korean team as their own, cheering for them in their next match. It was a true David versus Goliath story that captured the magic of the cup. More recently, at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the world witnessed another monumental upset. Argentina, led by Lionel Messi and one of the top favorites to win the entire tournament, faced Saudi Arabia in their opening match. Argentina was on an amazing 36-match unbeaten streak, and everything seemed to be going to plan when Messi scored an early penalty. But what happened in the second half stunned the football world. Saudi Arabia came out with incredible energy and courage. They scored 2 brilliant goals in quick succession, one from Saleh Al-Shairi and a stunning curler from Salem Al-Dawsari. The Saudi team then defended for their lives, with their goalkeeper making heroic saves and their defenders throwing their bodies in the way of every shot. They held on for an unbelievable 2-1 victory. The result sent shockwaves around the globe and was celebrated widely throughout the Arab world. It was a reminder that in football, anything is possible. No team is unbeatable, and passion and determination can sometimes overcome superior talent. These upsets, from North Korea in 1966 to Saudi Arabia in 2022, are etched into the folklore of the World Cup, embodying the spirit of hope and the drama that makes every tournament unforgettable. The FIFA World Cup has changed dramatically since its humble beginnings in 1930. The first tournament featured just 13 teams, with no qualification process needed. It was an invitational event held in a single city, Montevideo. Over the decades, the tournament has grown into a massive global spectacle, reflecting the sport's rising popularity around the world. The number of participating teams has steadily increased. From 1954 to 1978, the tournament featured 16 teams. This format created a very competitive and high-quality event, but it also meant that many nations from Africa, Asia, and North America struggled to qualify. The first major expansion came in 1982, when the tournament grew to include 24 teams. This change gave more opportunities to nations outside the traditional powerhouses of Europe and South America. It allowed countries like Cameroon, Algeria, and Honduras to showcase their talent on the world stage. The tournament expanded again in 1998 to 32 teams. This format, which lasted for 7 editions until 2022, became familiar to a whole generation of fans. It featured 8 groups of 4 teams, followed by a knockout stage of 16 teams. This expansion helped make the World Cup a truly global event. The way the World Cup is hosted has also evolved. After the first tournament was held in Uruguay, the hosting rights began to alternate between Europe and the Americas. This tradition was broken in 2002, when South Korea and Japan became the first ever co-hosts and the first hosts from Asia. In 2010, the tournament traveled to Africa for the first time, with South Africa hosting a vibrant and memorable event. This showed FIFA's commitment to bringing the World Cup to new corners of the globe, spreading the passion for football to every continent. The bidding process to host the tournament has become a major international event in itself. The biggest change is yet to come. The 2026 World Cup, which will be co-hosted by 3 countries for the first time, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, will see the tournament expand to an unprecedented 48 teams. This expansion will give even more countries the chance to participate in the world's greatest sporting event. While some critics worry that it might dilute the quality of the competition, others celebrate the increased inclusivity. From a small 13-team invitational in 1930 to a 48-team global festival in 2026, the World Cup's evolution mirrors the journey of football itself, from a regional pastime to the world's undisputed favorite sport. Some World Cup finals are remembered for their joy, but the 1950 final is remembered for its sorrow. It was not a traditional final match, but the decisive game of a final group stage. The tournament was held in Brazil, and the nation was completely obsessed with winning the trophy on home soil. They had built the world's largest stadium, the magnificent Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro, for the occasion. Brazil had been brilliant throughout the tournament, scoring goals for fun. They only needed a draw in the final match against their smaller neighbors, Uruguay, to be crowned champions. The entire country of Brazil was in a state of celebration before the match even started. Newspapers had already printed headlines declaring Brazil the champions. A victory song had been composed, and gold medals with the players' names had already been made. An estimated crowd of 200,000 people, the largest ever for a football match, packed into the Maracanã, ready to celebrate. When the Brazilian player Friaca scored the first goal early in the second half, the stadium erupted in a deafening roar. The party had started. It seemed impossible that anything could go wrong for the home side. But Uruguay was a team with immense pride and a history of success. Their captain, Obdulio Varela, was a strong leader. After Brazil scored, he calmly picked the ball out of the net and argued with the referee to slow the game down and quiet the crowd. His actions calmed his teammates. Then, against the run of play, Uruguay scored. Juan Alberto Schiaffino equalized the match. The stadium fell silent. The Brazilian crowd was stunned, but they still believed a draw would be enough. The party was on hold, but it was not yet cancelled. There was a nervous tension in the air. With just over 10 minutes left to play, the unthinkable happened. Alcides Gigia, the Uruguayan winger, ran down the right side and shot the ball past the Brazilian goalkeeper, Moacir Barbosa, at the near post. It was a goal that nobody expected. Uruguay was winning 2-1. The massive stadium, once a sea of noise, was filled with a chilling, deathly silence. When the final whistle blew, the silence turned into a wave of national mourning. This event, known as the Maracanazo, the Maracana blow, is still considered a national tragedy in Brazil. It remains the most dramatic and heartbreaking final in World Cup history. Beyond the tragedy of 1950, other finals are remembered for their incredible drama and the crowning of legends. The 1986 final in Mexico City was the culmination of Diego Maradona's one-man show. His Argentinian team faced a powerful and resilient West Germany. Argentina took a comfortable 2-0 lead and seemed to be cruising to victory. But the Germans, famous for their fighting spirit, refused to give up. They scored 2 late goals from set pieces to tie the match 2-2. With just a few minutes left, it seemed the game was heading for extra time. This was the moment for Maradona's genius to shine once more. He was heavily marked by the German defense throughout the game, but he found a single moment of freedom. As the German team pushed forward, Maradona received the ball in the center circle. He saw his teammate Jorge Burruchaga making a run. With a perfectly weighted defense-splitting pass, Maradona sent Burruchaga clear on goal. The striker ran towards the goal and calmly slotted the ball past the goalkeeper to score the winning goal. Argentina won 3-2, and Maradona had delivered the World Cup to his people, cementing his status as a footballing immortal. 36 years later, another Argentinian number 10 would have his date with destiny. The 2022 final in Qatar is widely regarded as the greatest World Cup final of all time. It was a titanic battle between two footballing giants, Lionel Messi's Argentina and Kylian Mbappe's France. Argentina dominated the first 80 minutes of the match. Messi scored a penalty, and Angel Di Maria finished off a beautiful team move to give them a 2-0 lead. It looked like Messi's fairy tale was going to have a simple, happy ending. But then, Kylian Mbappe exploded into life. In a stunning turn of events, Mbappe scored 2 goals in just 97 seconds to level the match and force extra time. The drama was almost unbearable. In extra time, Messi scored again, seemingly winning the cup for Argentina. But France would not be beaten. Mbappe scored another penalty to complete his hat-trick and send the game to a penalty shootout. The tension was at its peak. In the end, Argentina's goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez, became the hero, making a crucial save. Argentina won the shootout, and Lionel Messi finally, at long last, lifted the World Cup. It was a final for the ages, a perfect dramatic conclusion to the careers of two of the game's greatest players.